My name's Vanette. I'm obviously American. I am here to talk to you about how the next venture competitive advantage is brand strategy. And this is also very applicable for entrepreneurs as well. So pay attention, all. That's my face. I look great there. I've been working in the industry for like 15 plus years. I'm a fractional consultant now. I've worked in 12 plus industries. I've done lots of things, from beer to biotech to construction project management. So I'm going to teach you and talk to you about what brand strategy and what branding is today, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions, right? Everyone and everything is a brand. You're a brand right now. I'm a brand, right? So we need to think about it that way. And I think one of the places we miss most of this is in the B2B space. Because you're like, we're talking B2B. You're still talking a brand, right? And everything should come together. And I'll show you a B2B example. Done lots of things. Everyone thinks that branding and brand strategy is pretty pictures, and that is absolutely not true. I am not a designer. I cannot draw anything whatsoever. I can make presentations. Coca Cola is brown fizzy sugar water. That is all it is. And before, it used to contain cocaine, so that helped, with product loyalty. But at the end of the day, brown fizzy sugar water. Why are they the brand? They're the only top 10 brand this past year that gained 9% year over year, right? That's fucking huge. Sorry, can I swear? Maybe not. They're the number one food and bev brand still, right? They're valued at $98 billion. And the reason why they survived for this long is not because, they're still brown fizzy sugar water. It's because they actually stand for the idea of happiness, right? This is what I call in my industry a strategic North Star tennis ball, right? North Star, we know, everyone knows what that is, right? This is the thing that guides us home. And I call it a tennis ball because you and I, or whoever works on the business, is the only one that sees the brand or the business in its entirety. Everyone else, even as an investor, if they're not invested yet, sees the brand in little pieces, especially your consumers, your clients, whatever it is. So if I'm throwing 5 tennis balls at you and going, I am all these things and I can do all these things, no one's catching that tennis ball. Throw one tennis ball over and over again, as long as it's strategically crafted and it has emotional aspiration behind it, right? Because Coca Cola, I hate this microphone, looking at you. Coca Cola stands for happiness, and that's universal and timeless, and it transcends culture, time, right? Like happiness during COVID was very different from happiness now, right? And that's a beautiful thing to stand for. Brand strategies actually inform decisions on how to win, right? Like we didn't pull happiness out of anywhere. Coca-Cola was the first mover, so they own happiness. Lucky them, right? More timeless, the more human, the better, because branding is all about emotional aspiration. Brand strategies actually top to bottom inform decisions on how to win. Right, so even if you're an entrepreneur, you're not an investor, your problem opportunity validation is very, very important. So that's what brand strategy covers to the actual strategic execution oversight of this creative thing. Because a lot of times I don't care if you like red and I don't like red. It's not about that. It's about that strategic tennis ball I'm throwing over and over again. How does that come to life? Design is thinking made visual. Naming is the same thing, right? So this is it in its full glory. So if you're an entrepreneur, take a picture of this because you need to do all these things, right? I can also teach you how to do these things to be a brand strategist, but these are just essential business foundations, building blocks that you should have in your investor pitch deck. I don't want to talk to you. Literally the amount of pitches I've been in where I'm I'm going to put pesto in a bag. And I'm why? Because I think that pestos in jars break sometimes. Okay. That's not a business opportunity. That's not a problem that needs to be solved. Also, you have no culinary background. Why should I? You're also Asian. Why am I buying pesto in a bag from you? It doesn't make any sense, right? So you need to make sure you actually have a problem opportunity solution from a business standpoint, and you can monetize it. And then you need to do all these things. The pretty pictures is right here. Pretty pictures. It's I don't know. I don't math. That's not my thing, but a very small part of what brand strategy is all about. Of course, right, for the VCs that are out there, you can use this entire process to maximize on your ROI, on your current portfolio companies. You can use it on your own firm. Your firm's a brand as well. I'll show you a case study about that. But all entrepreneurs should be doing this. And the thing I'm more excited to talk to you about is using what I usually call the discovery phase of my process to do pre-investment due diligence. So I know that on the investor side, right, we look at due diligence from legal, finance, all those kind of things. That's not what I do. You guys know what you're doing. You do your jobs. I don't want anything to do with it. But what I do is then I take this and after 15 years, right, the most important part is this ICP identification and talking to these people, right? Because we forget to talk to actual human beings. And I've developed over 15 years of doing this over and over again. Instead of doing these crazy focus groups and talking to a million people, whatever it is, and wasting all this time, you can talk to 3 people per segment, an hour and a half, one-on-one over Zoom with the right questions, and you listen correctly and all that kind of stuff. And it gives you literally all the richness you need. And you just need to segment properly. And I know this is working, right? Because the first person I talk to, I pretend I'm getting completely new information. Because you don't want to introduce any bias to the situation, right? You pretend you don't know. And it's always best as a consultant, not the founder. If you're the founder, you just pretend you're the consultant, because then people won't be afraid to hurt your feelings, right? Founders, no one's going to be like, your idea sucks, except me. Sorry. But that's like with love, right? So first person you talk to, completely 100% new information. Second person, maybe 50-50, right? Third, fourth person, I say I should be bored out of my fucking mind, right? Because everyone's saying the same thing, and that's a good thing. That means there's themes, there's insights, right? Because you want to appeal to 99.9% of people, not just whatever. It's not about demographics, age, gender, whatever. It's about mindset and mentality. That's what branding is all about. So there's this great thing you can do that's fast, but this is kind of what comes out of it, and I'll walk you through these 3 different case study scenarios. Right, you can find these non-negotiable guardrails, obstacles to overcome. And you can find humbling, inaccurate assumptions. We have been humbled, I have been humbled, many times because you think you're the expert. I feel like, to an extent, there's a danger in thinking that you're too much an expert. You think you know the category, you're not bringing any freshness to it, right? There's actually greatness in objectivity and having fresh thinking in a category you never entered, right? So we assume lots of things that may not be true, is all I'm saying. And I'll show you an example of that. And there's low-fruit, game-changing opportunities. Just right there, first to take. Innovation, there's solutions and friction everywhere, and we just haven't solved them yet, right? But maybe they're just not marketed properly or whatever it is. This is my case study for your guardrails are obstacles to pay attention to. So this is a B2B brand. They're construction project management called Bandeck Project Management. That's Nick Bandeck. He's the founder. He's a young guy, right? And he's here to usher in the new industry in the built environment, construction project management. And he wants to usher in something new. His brand is okay, right? It's not like terrible. It's not great, but fine. He's B2B. What we found out from doing this discovery phase is that youthfulness is perceived ineptitude. That means that, like, when I see this young face with this young team, I think that you don't know what was that one airline that can make a safety video? What was that one airline that can make a safety video into a musical and everyone wants to watch it over and over again? If someone can make a safety video interesting, we can make anything that's a perceived weakness into a strength, right? What are only the capabilities we can get from someone that is younger? Because usually a construction project management is 50 plus, 60 plus, because it's an old industry, right? That's where trust comes from. Old white men. Right? There's guardrails. We can't be too modern in our design and our expression because you're young, you want to push something modern in a very traditional industry. You can't be too modern looking because that's scary. It scares off your traditionalist client. You need to be modern but traditional and safe enough, right? There's a line there. Now we have objective evaluation criteria, to establish that credibility and expertise. And then last but not least, right, because eventually the CEO wants to clear up his schedule, you're going to move on to a junior. I'm not going to trust that. Who the hell is this person? You pitched me and then all of a sudden I get a junior to work with? Do I trust them? They look very young also. So what we need to do as a brand is also establish all of the people on your team as trustworthy, credible reasons to believe. People don't understand, especially in anyways, B2B or a brand, it's like what you build as the brand affects your company culture. It's one of the same, right? You want everyone from Patagonia that works there to actually be outdoorsy, right? That would be the ideal situation for work-life balance and happiness. So this is kind of what we ended up doing, right? Like it looks modern, traditional. It's more polished looking on the outset from where we were, but that's not really the biggest change. We're talking about like our decades of experience, traditional excellence, modern approach, things that only like a younger CPM can do. Endurance and stamina. I will be there for you. When your building is maybe on fire at 4 a.m. and that 60-year-old is probably not going to be, right? Like we can play those perceived disadvantages up. Our team of subject matter experts, Sean Campbell, like looks at all his credentials are here, right? So these are the things I'm talking about when I talk about business and brand strategy. And it's not just make it look pretty. Twine Ventures, we have a lot of investors here, right? She was starting a venture fund in San Francisco, and her mission was to serve entrepreneurs working to improve human, societal, and planetary health. Also very wide, very big, right? So that needed to be streamlined. She came in here with these assumptions, and her philosophy up there being the biggest one. Capital is commodity, relationships are everything. And I think that every entrepreneur would be like, fuck no, capital is survival. Right? She thought her investor personality differentiated her. She thought that direct contact with the principal differentiated her. Swift accessibility, independently minded, right? When we actually talk to real entrepreneurs and real people, they don't believe in that. And that's not good. Your number one philosophy that differentiates you as a venture fund is that's not from an entrepreneur perspective. Right? Like they're like, this is survival. It's like, if I'm lucky and I get the check and I get a great relationship or I can pick, then that's different, right? So other things are table stakes and these are potential points of differentiation. So just doing this process is really important in that sense because you could be completely wrong in what you are assuming. What founders actually care about, and this is actually the communication hierarchy of her VC website, is domain expertise, credentials, your why. Do you know what you're doing so you can help me? I work in, I'm doing energy sustainability, so I'm going to look for a clean fund, right? Because they're going to help me in that way. Founder fit, are we in the right stage? Are we the right fit for each other? Founders want this information like this. Because I am just, as a founder, you're just trying to get someone, just trying to get a fish on the hook, right? We don't have a lot of time to really dig into until someone responds back to you. Operating style, when you have more of a wiggle room in what you can do and what you can, right? It's like, are they going to be in the trenches with you? And then last but not least, that I found surprising, and then maybe investors, you might want to take this as a note, it's your rejection approach. Right? Most people just ghost you, and founders know that, and they are okay with that. They're really pissed when you lead them on, and you ask them for more things, and you say no, and then you ghost them. Probably don't do that if you can, avoid that. But the number one thing there was like less than 1% of investors give like objective, thoughtful feedback, right? And entrepreneurs remember that, and they remember that investor even if it's not the right fit, right? So those are things. Investors also need to think about that. Like, your entrepreneurs are your customers as well in your segment. I am out of time, but really fast, quick playground, right? Sex. We all think that sex is sex. Intercourse, climax, orgasm. The whole industry, even the modern brands are like that. I'll be really fast. But really, when I ask the question, why do we have sex? It's about connection. And no brand out there talks about connection. Flirting and foreplay is more sexy and, desirable than sex. That's your favorite part, right? Look at the stats. You guys can read. Here's a huge white space for the female gaze and connection. No one's in this industry. No one is doing this. Makes me mad. Your opportunity here in the sex, this is a free strategy for sex because my client did not listen. Opportunity here is to be more genuine, everyday, playful. What is the sexiest thing a girl can wear? Your big shirt, right? I don't want to squeeze myself into lingerie and perform in mode and all that stuff versus everyone else is doing this. So if you can give me that, I would be happy. And then, they didn't listen, but free strategy. I'm out of time. So anyways, there's also this. But you can very quickly, especially if you're a heritage brand, you can reposition the brand strategy, the beer from Mexico to an analog brand for the digital age. That's something I want, universal. That then changes and affects the visuals, more polished, more together. This then gives you 245% increase in brand value, and it's the #1 most valuable brand according to Cantor in 2024, right? So this is what we can do with branding. And this is how we could potentially work together. That's my website. That's my LinkedIn. Oh, and then I'm giving out 5 complimentary 30-minute consultant whatevers. So there's that.